Welcome to the Thursdays video. I know I was gonna do it on an a video about how I use my credit cards to ensure I have liquidity in my personal life, in my finances personally. However, I haven't really scripted that out yet, and so I didn't really want to make a video just free flowing on it. So I couldn't do that. So I decided I was gonna do it today. This video is probably gonna just be learning more about me, something that's been happening the last 2 days because I made a video on Tuesday that was the weekly update video. Some things that have happened, some YouTube things that have happened. So I don't know how long this video will be. So this is just a video to get me to know more about me and some of my ideas and things like that. I haven't really done a video like that before. I've mainly done videos about my weekly updates, or it's been about, specific problems I've solved in my life, solve those problems. So I haven't really talked about a lot of my personal life. Now I have interjected into those videos personal life stuff, but it hasn't really been more about myself, my background, my past and everything. So we'll get into that. So on Tuesday, I found out there was a Barnes and Nobles sale. So they do like a Labor Day sale or whatever. So I went to Barnes and Nobles, which I don't like going to Barnes and Nobles because I always buy books. I know that's a horrible problem to have. Even if I don't read the books, I still buy them. I usually spend like $100 if I go to Barnes and Nobles. And so I went there, and of course, all the books on sale were like fantasy books, or you had to go online to order books that were on sale. So I ended up getting four books, and it was about $100. So I want to talk about the books, but I also want to talk about the really nice store lady or whatever. It was like a young, probably 19, 20-year-old blonde, long blonde haired girl or whatever. She was really nice. She packed up all of my books or whatever. And I was like, thank you, like whatever. That's what I always say. And like she smiled back at me. I don't know if it's because I'm becoming more attractive or more confident or whatever, but like used to be girls wouldn't smile at me or whatever, anything. I don't know if she was attracting me or just being friendly. I think she was just being friendly, but that kind of made my day where she was like, "Oh, thank you too," and she smiled at me. And it wasn't just like a normal smile. I don't know how to tell. So I don't know if she was just being friendly or, she was attracted to me or whatever. She was flirty, whatever. But that was really nice. I guess it was because I was so nice to her. Probably a lot of her customers were like grouchy or whatever. And so I wanted to talk about the books. Now, the reason I want to talk about books is I spent $100 on them, and I want to talk about why I selected these books. But also, I've already read one. So let's get into the one I read. So the one I read is The Weekend by Noah Kagan. I don't know how to say his last name. I think that's right. And sorry, I had bit the inside of my cheek like a week ago and it's still healing, so even talking's kind of hurting. So that's why I'm a little slower and I have to drink some water because of that. So let's talk about this book. So I got his book because I've watched some of his videos and a lot of people rave about his book. And so I read it, and it's a really short book. It's pretty easy to read. It's what, 215 pages, but that's with the like index and everything. And there were some important things in it, but I already knew a lot of it. It wasn't really useful. I would give it like a 2 out of 5 star. The problem with books is Dan Coe talks about this, and I'll talk about him a little bit later in the video. But Dan Coe talks about this. The lens that you view life makes it so you read books differently than other people. So you get different things out of books than others. So, for example, if you're starting a business, this book is more valuable for you. Or maybe you want to start a side hustle. But if it's not, then it's not as valuable. And so that's why you have to choose books carefully. But I want to get into this. So, the viewpoint of your life. So, everyone has a personal philosophy on life. It's everything about their life is included in this. What they think about their family, what they think about relationships, love, wealth creation, money, having friends. Do they want a lot of friends? No friends? Are they their energy levels, their extrovert or introvert, but also their perspective on life. So how they think about, America. If you're an American citizen, you hopefully are more patriotic and you love America because you've lived in it and you've benefited from America. But maybe you're from, the Middle East and then you hate America because we ruined their country. So it all depends. So every time you read a book, you get something different from it than others. And I wanted to talk about this because I can't just say, oh, it's a 3 star or 2 star for me without giving you that context. So for me, it wasn't very valuable. I already knew about the minimum viable product. So in this book, it recommends thinking of businesses like experiments, where you have a 48-hour, so you have a weekend and you create a business. Specifically, you validate a business idea and then you send it out to people. You try to get customers as fast as possible. And once you have a couple of customers, you validated your idea. And so you can go along with the business. So you can, fulfill the orders that you've already gotten that weekend and build up the business that way. That's a good, I think that's a good framework for business, but also it encourages some things I don't like to call business. So let's talk about this. In his book about business, and how to launch a seven-figure business. What he doesn't talk about is the businesses that he suggests or that are viable using this strategy in the book is side hustles, essentially, or it's even basically I wouldn't even call it side hustle. So let's go into this. Why I said it's side hustles. So some of the stuff he mentions in the book, like, he has a woman that he taught that makes cookies and makes like 100K a year from making cookies and selling them to like her neighborhood and all of that. But that's a side hustle. It's not a business. The reason I don't call it as a business because that's one person doing it. So for a business, the reason you want to start a business is because you get leverage in a business. There are a couple of different leverages, but what the leverages are is basically you can multiply your money. So if you put in 1 hours of effort, you get 10 out in a business. Or if you put in $1, you get out $10 of profit in a business. Okay. But in a side hustle, you don't have any of that leverage because you're doing everything yourself and you're not really having a business. What you're having is another job. And the boss is just the customers. That's who your bosses are now. So that's why like if you do gig work or you do like online stuff where like you start a freelance side hustle freelancing, that's what they call it, freelancing, like you do freelancing, that's just another job. And the only difference is maybe you get a little bit more freedom, so you get more hours, you get to pick what times you work and what jobs you pick or whatever. But your boss is your customers. If they don't like something, you got to change it, or they don't pay you if they don't like something, or maybe they don't recommend you to other customers because you don't like it. So that's the difference. Now, the big difference is leverage. And there are a couple different, but one is capital. So if you put in money, you get more out. So, for example, there are some people who are really good at marketing, and so let's say they put in $1,000 worth of Facebook ads, and out of that 1,000, they make out $10,000 worth of products sold because of those ads. So they're multiplying their money. Okay, that's part of leverage, but another part is capital, not just money wise, but also wise. So let's say you're a business and you have 10 employees, those 10 employees are creating value. Now, you don't pay them all the value they create. Why? Because you're doing a lot of the back end work. You're finding customers. Maybe you're a copywriting business. So you're finding all the customers for copywriting. The employees are writing the copywriting and all that. And then you have the salespeople who are selling, but you do all of that. You manage all of that, everything. You also take up the most risk. So you get the biggest benefit from the business, starting the business. However, you take more risk. You have to put in more time. You know, you have to do more work. So that's capital wise. So you maybe pay your employees $10 an hour, but their value is 15 and you make the difference of because you provide so much help for them. You help them find clients, you help them, advertise, you do all this stuff, you manage them, you pick the projects, all that, you pick the customers, who to choose, everything, all that. And the business, as the business gets more and more complicated, that human leverage, the difference between what you pay people and the employees in your company and what the profit actually is from whatever you're selling or whatever service you're doing, that profit margin, it grows bigger as you add more value to the employees, essentially. So you do more work for the employees while they do one specific task and you do everything to support them. So the value difference grows bigger. And so that's another leverage. And then there are two ones that are almost the same. And I would call this, either they call this code or they call this content. And the reason these are leverage is because they're timeless. You only have to do it once and it's around forever and you can keep making money from it. Coding, basically, you can code a website and that website can make money for you forever. You can create a web application and people buy that web application because it's useful, and now you're making money forever and you don't have to update the app. You can do it, but you don't have to. So that's like infinite leverage. The content is the same way. You can make a content video on YouTube and it blow up 7 years from now. Just randomly it goes from 1,000 views to 1 million views. It goes viral, whatever. You made money from that and you'll over time get more and more people will see that video. So that's what content is. Over time, even if you're barely growing, more and more people will see that video, and so it's infinite leverage. And over time, as more and more people see your YouTube videos, for example, you have a chance to show them products that you are affiliated with or products that you are selling. And so you have more and more leverage over it. So that's why I said some of the things, this book is for mainly for people who are wannabes. I would call them entrepreneurs, wantamreneurs, or whatever. That's what people call 'em. I'm not really like that anymore. I've started a YouTube channel. I used to be like that. I started the YouTube channel. I'm starting an Instagram. I'm moving out of my parents' house. It's to get you to take action in starting your business. That's otherwise it's not really useful. Like it talks about how social media is useful, but email list is the most useful thing that you can sell on. I already knew that. So it wasn't very useful for me. Now, someone else who's like afraid of starting a business, all the risk and everything, then I would say this book is for you. So this is the book I read. I read it in a night. Tuesday night after I got home, I read it. Tuesday, it was pretty easy. $1 million weekend. I I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a beginner and you're afraid of starting a business. This goes through all the steps you should take, how to validate business ideas. I found that interesting. That was kind of helpful even for me. But other than that, it was kind of useless. It didn't match up to the hype. And so that was the first book. And it's already been 15 minutes. So I'll speed through these last one. This is the second one I'm starting to read. I've gone through like the first 5 pages, and it's on the edge. It's a famous author, best-selling author of The Signal and the Noise. And basically, the premise of this book, as I was flipping through and why I bought it, is how it's risk takers, and you can tell from the book on the title, On the Edge, The Art of Risking Everything. The Art of Risking Everything. What it is it's about the people in power, a lot of people who are risk takers. And what they do is they take calculated risks. They're not just gamblers who throw all the money. Now, it does talk about like the best gamblers, but that's the best. These are people who make informed decisions to bet on something because they have knowledge. That's like the stockbrokers. That's the stock market. I would say the best one with this is Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett. But because he makes informed decisions, but he's not as risky as some of these people. These are the people who start businesses and everything. And it talks about these types of people. And it talks about uh, he basically in this book he investigates people he calls a community, which he calls the river. And this river is basically a community of like-minded people whose mastery of risk-taking allows them to shape and dominate so much of modern life. So that's just a little bit of a blurb. And what I found interesting is I've noticed that in real life in a lot of people. So like especially in the stock market, the riskier you the riskier the bet, the higher the payoff. And so it's really easy to lose money. But the best traders and the best, stock investors are the people who take bets with huge amounts of money, and they take big bets. And the thing with that is they don't take a lot of bets. So what you don't realize is it's not like they diversify their portfolio. No, even Warren Buffett says this. He even says diversifying is the enemy of being ignorant, or it's the reason you do it is because you're ignorant, you're stupid. Because it's better, you can get better returns if you are more informed about the market. So if you know what you're doing, and if you only take 10 small bets, but you've done a lot of research, you know those companies inside and out, your risk is lower than just going in the S&P that could drop because the stock market overall crashes. And it's not just in the stock market, it's in capital funds, it's in everything, betting, all that. And so I really wanted to read this book. And I think I'm going to annotate this book. I've never annotated books before, and I've never really done deep research into books. And so I really want to do that with this book. And I think it's more valuable. I've only read a couple pages, but I think it's a valuable book. And so that's the second book I got. I remember I got four books on Tuesday. Okay. And I got Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams by Matthew Walker, PhD. I got this book because I really am interested in sleep and how to improve your sleep, but also I use a Fitbit to track my sleep. That's the main thing for this Fitbit. It's not to track activity level, any of that. It's for sleep. And the reason I do that is I want to improve my sleep. My sleep scores have been like fair, so like 70, 80. Why? Because I'm not getting enough sleep, but also my sleep quality isn't that good. And right now, I can't really change much about the external environment because I'm living with someone. I'm living in my parents' home, and my dad shares a room with me. We share the same room. We're roommates. And so I can't really change the external environment. It's not like I can get blackout curtains or turn off all the lights because sometimes my dad leaves the light on when we're asleep or whatever. Or he wakes up in the middle of the night and leaves the bathroom light on, so I can see it while I'm sleeping essentially, and that messes with your sleep. You want complete darkness and sleep when you're sleeping. So I can't do that, but I'm moving out soon, and so I want to use this so I can improve my sleep. I want to get up to a good sleep quality. So have you noticed all these books? I'll talk about the last book, but all the books I've gotten are to solve a problem in my life or are philosophical ideas. So the On the edge, I'm using that to see how to become more of a risk taker. How do the best risk takers take bets? Because that's essentially what life is. You're choosing to focus on something at the expense of others. So you went to college instead of working in the trades because you thought college was better and you get a better job for it and you wouldn't have to slave away in a trade school. Whichever way you chose, or maybe you chose the trade school because you thought it was better. You made a calculated bet to choose which one based on what you thought was best for you. And so this goes over the ways that the best decision makers or the best betters or the most risk takers make decisions. And so that was the book I got. The sleep book is so I can improve my sleep when I move out. And because I'm starting to track my sleep, so I want to improve that. Now, the last book I got was The Evolution of Desire: Strategies for Human Mating by David Buss. I got this book for a couple of reasons. David Buss is recommended to me by Ty Lopez. So if you don't know, he's a huge internet marketer. I agree with a lot of his philosophy. Some people say he's a scammer or whatever. I've never bought any of his courses. I've just listened to some of his YouTube videos. And so I think he's really knowledgeable, and one of his mentors, because he recommends getting a lot of mentors, and he's used a lot of his income for that to invest back in himself by getting mentors to help him in aspects of his life. And one of those was David Buss, and so I found this book. I also got the book The Evolution of Desire, partly because of another reason. So I'm gonna start dating soon in a couple months, and so I wanted to read this book to be more informed about it. And why I say in a couple months, like Well, the truth is, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but I want to be vulnerable. Let me get some water. I want to be authentic on this channel, as I've really never really dated anyone before, and we'll talk about the reasons for that. And so I got this book because I'm gonna start dating when I move out. Now there are a couple of reasons, but I'll talk about the main one: why I didn't date in high school. So in high school, I didn't have a lot of esteem. I, I really didn't have a lot. I hadn't worked out yet. I hadn't fixed my acne. So I had low self-esteem. I had confidence, but I was really shy also. So I wouldn't say I had really low esteem. I was confident, but I was the silent type. I was really the shy type in uh in school. And I really didn't know how to make friends. My parents didn't teach me. I never did in, middle school or primary school. I didn't really have a lot of friends. Actually, in I think primary school, I was bullied by this one kid. I never saw him again. I don't even remember him. I barely have any memories of it. I just remember being bullied in primary school, but I didn't really have a lot of friends middle school or high school, and I never really realized that like friends where you would do stuff outside of school. So all of my friends were in school, so I could have the same class with them and talk to them and everything. And then the next year, I wouldn't have classes with them, so I stopped being the friend, or I couldn't hang out with them, and so I never hanged out outside of class. I didn't even know that was a possibility. But also, let's talk about, so that was just the relationship side. I didn't really have any friends. I didn't know more about how to communicate, and I basically dumbed down my life by reading fantasy books all day to get outside my horrible life, my loser life. Others use video games. I used books. I have played really one game a lot that I really loved, which was Skyrim. But other than that, it was really just reading fantasy and fan fiction because I didn't have money for books and web novels later on in college or whatever. So I really was a loser. I'm not going to deny that, but that was the main thing. I could have still gotten girls. I'm not going to say I couldn't, or I couldn't have gotten girls. It wasn't like I was completely ugly. No, I was just a shy type, and that wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was I didn't want to be in a relationship. So number one, my hormones went out of control. So I was on porn. I was watching porn every night. Like I said, I would be authentic and everything. So I was watching porn or whatever. That got rid of my urge to like meet females. But another thing was I didn't want to be in a relationship because I saw how badly it could go. So if you've never known, I don't know if I've talked about this. My parents, who I've lived with my whole life, always fight. They do not like each other. They say they do. They fight, they stonewall, they hold contempt for each other, they yell, argue every single day almost. And the problem with this is I was growing up, so I'd have to break up fights where my mom and dad would physically fight. And it wasn't just my dad, it was also my mom would fight my dad. Because if you don't know my dad, my mom even used to say he's a lover, not a fighter. And so my dad, he would like slap her, like he wouldn't actually punch my mom, but they would still like fight physically. And so I would have to break up the fights, and then both my parents would get on to me about getting into their arguments, even though I couldn't go to sleep at night because they were yelling at each other. Okay, my mom didn't want to be in public with my dad. My dad called my mom a controlling. I don't want to say a bad word, but controlling. So I don't want to get into too much about and talk about their personal lives too much, but just to be told, growing up, my whole concept of romantic relationships were fighting, arguing. Now I read fantasy, and so that had a lot of like romantic. I read a lot of fantasy, but a lot of that wasn't romantic fantasy. So I didn't see a lot of the romantic stuff in fiction. And so my whole I saw a little bit, but not a lot. So my whole growing up, my whole perception of relationships romantically was my mom and dad, where basically you shackled another person to you and all you did was fight and argue. You lost your independence and everything. And so that made me not want to be in a relationship. Like I would say, oh, this girl's attractive. maybe I'd have sex with her, but I didn't want to be in a relationship, and I didn't want to just have a one night stand with a girl. Also, that's the main reason I didn't date in high school and even in college until like the last 2 or 3 years where I fixed that. I didn't want to be in a relationship with, another woman, a woman, because I'm not gay. I like men, I like women, and so I didn't want to be in a relationship with a woman just because I saw how bad my my parents turned out, and that kind of skewed my my perspective on it. And so that's why I didn't want to date in high school and even in college. And now I've fixed that the last 2 years. But why I haven't dated the last 2 years? Well, I've always planned to move out. I didn't have my own place, so it's not like I could bring a girl out my own place, not to have sex, but just to talk or whatever. I basically have no privacy at home. So it's really hard to date, especially since I'm not a person who likes to go out a lot. I'm really kind of a homebody. I'm trying to change that a little bit, but I am a little bit of a homebody. Person who likes to stay at home and read and, discuss things. And I like to be one on one with a person whenever I'm talking to them. I don't like to have a crowd around me. And so it's harder to date when I don't have my own place. But also, I didn't really have a lot of money. Like all of the money I've had has either been for the last 2 years has been saved up or for investing in stuff. So investing in books, that help me or hobbies that I want to play, personal development. That's what I've been investing in. It hasn't been on, so I can get a date and I can go get ice cream. Now those would be personal development because I'm developing the skill of dating or whatever. So that could go into it. But I really didn't have money. I didn't have any I didn't have any privacy at home. I also don't really have any social status. So like I'm working at a fast food place. Like it's harder to get women when they ask what your job is and then you're gonna have to say fast food. That's just the point of it. Now you can have a good personality. You can be like, my personality is not about my work or whatever. I just work to pay my bills. But part of the evolution of desire, and I know it talked about this book, is like people are status based. Like the best girls I could probably get are people who work in fast food the same as me. And so I wanted to get my life under control before I start dating. Now people are like, well, if you always say that, you're never going to date or whatever, but that's not true. I really am going to start doing that. So I just wanted to make a promise to you guys that once I move out, the first month I move out, I'm not going to focus on dating. Once I get my job squared away, I have a basic job, even if that's fast food, before I even get my accounting job. But once I move out, I found a place where that's locked in where I can rent for 12 months. So I have a 12-month lease locked in. Everything in my life is stable. And I've chosen the place where I'm going to stay for the next couple of years. Then I will start dating. Okay, that's another reason I didn't want to start dating because I knew I was going to move out of Florida and everything. And I didn't want to have to experience the heartbreak where I have to break up with my girlfriend because she doesn't want to move to another state with me. Maybe she would, and that'd be great, but maybe she wouldn't. I understand that people have different values and different goals in life, and maybe they would want to stay close to their parents or whatever, if their parents live by them or near them or whatever. And if they would have to make that choice, and I don't want to have to help make, force my partner to make that choice between me and, their goals or something like that. And so that's why I really haven't dated. And and so that's the last book, The Evolution of Desire. I have all of them stacked up next to me. Let me get them all stacked up for you. But again, there's all four books. So those are like the books that I've talked about. Now we're gonna get into like some personal things and some musings. I like to call them musings, some philosophies I've been looking at, thoughts on life and everything. And on, I think Wednesday, I was going through my recommended page on YouTube. So if you don't know, there's a recommended page where you scroll and it has all the videos, just recommended videos from the YouTube algorithm. And one of them was by a compilation of Andrew Tate's speaking stuff. So I don't want to get into too much about Andrew Tate because I do agree with some of the stuff he says. I also don't agree with a lot. And he's almost like a human trafficker. Okay, he's almost been convicted of it. So whether you agree he's a good guy or he's been framed or if he's like the worst person ever, I don't want to talk into that. What I want to talk about is his communication skills. So you can hate him or love him, but he's one of the best communicators I've ever seen. And there was a video that I had clicked on was how he got better at speaking, where it goes through clips on, what he then did to get better at speaking and how to be a good communicator. And what I took away from that video is there are two things that you have to do be a good communicator. Number one is you have to be a good speaker. And the way you do that is you talk and everything, and then you analyze your speaking for the day. I do that through these YouTube videos. I watch them over and I kind of analyze them, like where my ums and ahs, how I can do better next time. And if you do this over time, you'll get better and better at your speaking. The second thing, which is what I really wanted to talk about, was his thing is all communicators are good at telling stories and specifically telling stories about themselves. And the reason you want to do this is because storytelling is a way people communicate. But you want to tell the story about yourself. That's how you become more interesting, a better communicator, is by telling your own story. But the problem with a lot of people is they don't have a story to tell because their life isn't interesting. They haven't taken too many risks. So they don't have a lot of stories. And Andrew Tate even says this. He says, what makes a great story, and even in fiction, and you can tell this, what makes a good story is the stakes, the risks you have to take. What happens if you fail? What happens if something doesn't work out? And so you have to take up more risks for life to develop your own story. So you want to think of your life as a story and to do that story. Imagine you're the audience. How do you want that person to grow as a person? How do you want that story to evolve? And the main thing is that you want them to face conflicts. You don't want them to be super powered. That's why people don't like Superman as much as Batman because his only weakness is, kryptonite. So he's not really a human. He's like a god. That's why people love Batman. He's a normal human being. He faces setbacks. He faces setbacks. And it's the same way you have to take risk. And if you're an audience, if you ever read a book, you love it because of the challenges, because that shows what the true character of a person. And see, you as a person must go through these difficult challenges, and especially as a man, because he's kind of right on this. We've lost that sense of challenge in the life, the coming of age trial. And that's why I'm kind of moving out, because this is going to be my coming of age thing where I have to survive by myself. My parents aren't going to be a safety net that I can come back to. I'm not going to have them as a safety net. I have to survive. I have to make a better life for myself, independent of anyone. And so that's the rite of passage. I'm risking everything. I could have to, build up a huge credit card debt trying to get bills because I don't have a job for 6 months. And so, and then that's the risk. That's a big risk. There are other risks. I could go homeless. And Andrew talks about that. He said someone came up to him and asked him, people, my life is so boring or whatever. There was a train, an international train that I could have gone on, but I didn't want to do it or whatever. And Andrew Tate was like, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, you should buy the $300 train ticket that, goes to all these different European nations or whatever. He said, why? And then he was like, and the guy said, well, what if I get robbed? And you know what Andrew Tate's reason is? And he's correct on this. That's a story for you. You now have a story on how you got robbed. And that's why you should, and he said, then he left on to say, this is why you should learn fighting, because then you can get in a boxing ring and you can say, I won against someone, I lost against someone. That's another story. And he's correct on that. It's another reason why I want to learn boxing, specifically boxing. And that's why that just stuck with me so much. You have to take a risk in life so you have your own story. If God one day when you die reads out your story, are you going to be happy? He's going to read out all the challenges you had, how it changed you, because you're not going to change without challenges. Humans don't like to change, unfortunately. So you have to have these challenges, these struggles to force you to change, these inflection points in life that force you to change. And so that was something that really got me interested. Now, after doing that, I've I've read some stuff. I've talked to an AI. So I use ChatGPT as like someone to talk to. Like, like I said, I have that like place where I bit in my mouth or whatever, so it's hurting while I'm even talking. That's why my talking's a little slower and my voice is a little bit lower today. So I wanted to talk about that. So I use ChatGPT as a person to think out my thoughts and to think out books with me. So the evolution of desire isn't really the first romantic relationship book I read. I read a lot because I didn't want to be in a relationship. However, sorry, my hair's all messed up because I'm wearing a hat. Like, let me step back a little bit. So I've read a lot of romantic relationship books because I've always been curious about it. I wanted to know other perspectives on romantic relationships that weren't mine, not what I have seen with my parents. And so I read a lot of books, but there was one book that I've really taken back on, and I look back on it after reading or glancing through this book real quick and after buying it. And the main romantic book that stuck out to me was The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. And that is my favorite Robert Greene book. I have his mastery book I read. I've glanced through the laws of human nature, and I've also read parts of the whatever the laws of war or whatever. I remember one thing from the laws of war, whatever warfare, the strategies of warfare, or something like that. But my favorite book is The Art of Seduction, and I read it a couple times, and I used to not take it seriously, but because I'm starting to date, I want to take it more seriously. And a lot of people clown on that book, but I really think it's a kind of interesting book, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. And in it, he talks about now, the art of seduction isn't just about romantic relationships. You can apply seduction to your everyday life. And he talked about the eight different relationship, the eight different seducers. Okay. And the reason this book really resonated with me because in Robert Greene's analytical process, so his book is really analytical, which is nice for me because I am too. He describes his way of thinking of like romantic relationships, falling in love and all that. And it really got me into I think it's a great mindset. And he thinks of relationships like almost like a game. And I've always thought that too, where you want to seduce the other person to fall in love with you. And he gives out the eight different types of seducers. So these are the type of people you see who seduce others. Seduce by you make them fall in love with you or admire you or anything. Now it doesn't have to be fire and love. I would say seducing is influencing others to follow you, to, do whatever you say, follow you. Other people call it influence or persuasion. I call it seduction, but I'm really talking in terms of, in this video, romantically. So he thinks of it like a game where it's a game between you and another person. And, it's one person pursuing the other person or spinning a web around the other person so they fall in love with you. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's manipulative or this or that. And I don't think it's manipulative. I see relationships where I want to seduce the other person all the time. So, what a lot of relationships, and this is what happened with my parents, I'm assuming, is my dad pursued my mom or whatever. They fell in love. They had kids. They got married, then had kids or whatever 5, 10 years ago. But they lost that spark of attraction, of seduction, because my dad didn't keep pursuing my mom, or the other way around. My mom didn't keep pursuing my dad, whichever one, but they lost that spark. And I don't mean like, I guess you could say the spark of romantic attraction. And that's part of the book, Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, is part of it is like the different lures that you can use in a relationship to build a relationship, a romantic relationship. That in the pragmatic guide to relationships. That was also the other book that resonated with me. But let's get to the art of seduction. So he talks about the different types of seductors, and I noticed this in real life. For example, let's give examples from work. One of them is the charmer. So this is like Bill Clinton. This is the charmer is the one that makes everyone feel appreciated. So like if you talk to them a couple years, they'll remember your conversation. This is a person everyone wants to be friends with. It's not the charismatic type, okay? So, but they're just so friendly that you want to be friends with them. You want to listen to them. You can tell them all your secrets and they won't judge you. And I'll give you an advice. So I've noticed this in my job. So we have one employee. She's an older lady. I won't give her name, who always does the prep work. So the prep work is cutting vegetables and washing the dishes. Okay, that's what she does in the back. But everyone loves her. They say she's the nicest person ever. Why is that? Because if you talk to her, she gives you your undivided attention, but also this is the thing she does. She'll come in from work. I go straight to my station after I clock in. I say hello really quickly, but I'm trying to get to work as fast as possible. She will clock in. She'll come in early, go by everyone and hug them or say, "How are you doing?" or "How's it going, Tyler?" or whatever. And then she'll move on to the next one. And she does that for everyone. Everyone. There'll be like 7 employees and she'll go by all of them and like, "Hello, how are you doing?" Or if like someone's in the office, so a manager's in the office, so she can't see him, once she goes to work or whatever, if the manager comes out and she sees the manager, she'll go up to them and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" Or blah blah blah. Like it's good to see you and everything. And like for some of the employees, she'll hug them like she hugs me, but others she'll like high five them or whatever. But she's so good at that, and everyone loves her for that. And it's just because she makes you feel like you matter. So that was one of the types. And then there are the charismatic side. These are the leaders, the JFK Kennedy. He was a charismatic leader. That's why he had so many women who were in a relationship with him that he slept with, because he was so seductive, because he was such a charismatic leader. Not even a leader, but just charismatic. He was so great at that. And so, like I said, charismatic can be not just, using it for relationships, romantic relationships, but also to gain power. That's what JFK did. He was so charismatic that, the people loved him. And so that was another type. Uh, that's the one I haven't really noticed so many charismatic people in work, but I've noticed the charmer. Another one I want to talk about is the innocent one. So they're so innocent. They're like, act like they're 10 or 11. It's because they have so much happiness. They're so naive. And, that's a coworker in my life. She works at Waterbury too. She is always smiling, no, always happy. Let me tell you a story. So another one of my coworkers was on grill and they were transferring the meat over with a spatula. Well, the spatula is really hot, and you're walking by the person and you're putting down the meat on the sandwich patty before it's wrapped. And he accidentally touched her with the hot spatula and burned her a little bit. Not too bad, but still burn her. and he says that's not okay to her or whatever. And he was like, I'm sorry or whatever. And she, the innocent coworker, she was like, oh no, it's fine or whatever. Like it's okay. And she was smiling and everything, even though that probably hurt. And he was like, it's not okay. It's not okay. Like you should be mad about it. And he was right. But she has that kind of innocence to her. And that's probably because she worked at customer service where you always have to be nice to the customers. But also that's just, I think, part of her personality and part of it's been developed because she used to work in customer service. She had to wear a mask on her, for 8 hours a day doing customer service or even longer. And the problem with the masks is eventually you do them long enough, they actually become part of your personality. And so that's what I think about her. But the thing with her is she used to have a husband, and what happened to him is she went with her baby or whatever. They had a kid like that was like 6 months, a year old, and they went to get groceries, and someone broke into their house and robbed the house and shot her husband, and he died. And so, she even said that she was a wreck for a couple of years and now she has a boyfriend and she's fine or everything, but that the cruelty of life hasn't changed her. She still has that innocence, and it's so nice or whatever, and that it's kind of seductive. And so that's another example of one of the archetypes of seducers. And I really think it's a useful tool for me because I understand I was like the coquette or whatever, where I always was like hot and cold to people. And I sometimes am, sometimes I'll answer tests right immediately, and sometimes I don't. I wait a little bit. And it's natural for me. And it kind of made me understand myself more and what tendencies I should overinflate and what should I get to. And in a relationship, even before this book, I read the book, I always thought of what my perfect relationships would be in art, would be a game of play. And so I would, I always wanted to be in a loving relationship, but I didn't always want it to be loving. So I always thought about, making my partner jealous, or, you know, being catty with my girlfriend or whatever, or something like that. Or like trying to go out cause drama where I'll be like if my girlfriend ever asked me to be in the trash, I would say no, or like you should do it or whatever, just so like I could fight with her. Like I always thought relationships is like, I would want sometimes where I'd be, loving and everything, and it would be a calmer part of the relationship. And then I wanted a part where I could like playfully fight with, my girlfriend. Now, I wouldn't want it to be like devastating where I broke up with her or anything, but like just playfully fought something drama wise. I always wanted to do that. I always like drama at work or whatever. I sometimes try to cause it because I like it. And now some people might say that's like toxic or whatever, but that's just the way I am. I'm not going to change that about me. And I just think relationships aren't good if you don't have a little bit of drama, some of that little spark of it. Because like if a relationship's always just like calm, like the ocean calm, there's not going to be any attraction. And at least that's what I believe. And so I always wanted to like, playfully fight with my partner or, be catty with my partner or start drama for that or just make them jealous. And some people might say that's like insecure love, but maybe it is, but I think it's the right thing to do. And maybe, if I ever find a partner, where I start dating and a lot of people break up with me because of that. I don't know. I just think that would be a good relation. That's what I am. So I discovered a name for it, which is the coquette, I guess. And so that's the that's part of the book I really liked is I discovered that more. I put a name to it and like talked a little bit about tactics for a lot of that. But like I'm a really naturally silent person. I'm more introverted. I'm a more independent person, which fits the coquette. And and so I can't really play out any of the other seductor types. So I can't do innocent because I'm too jaded about life. Um, I couldn't play the rake because I'm really not interested in women too much. Like I want a relationship with a woman or whatever, but I don't want it to be most of my life. And that's what the rake is. You can read the book if you want more of the seductive types. The only other one I could be was like the star or the ideal lover. And the ideal lover is you do everything to make the person fall with you. You love bomb them essentially to fall in love with you. Like you bring them flowers every day, all the stuff. You fulfill their wildest dreams. And I don't think I could do that because it's too much work for me, and I'm more of an independent person. I don't want to put too much into a relationship. And so I could be the star, but I don't have anything that puts me above others. So it's not like I'm a celebrity or an actor or anything like that. So I don't think or a prodigy. So I can't be like a star, or I think that's what it's called, a star. You can read the book. And so I've chosen that. And like there are probably other seduction types, but I think that would be the best one, and that plays into my instincts and my natural disposition. Okay, because it's hard to like let's say I'm in the rake who loves women, who goes after women or whatever, that I can't commit or anything with that. That's highly seductive. The problem with that is I'm wearing a mask and it's tiring. What if I get in a relationship with a girl and I ultimately want a long-term relationship? I don't just want to sleep with girls. And I find out and they find out that, oh, I'm not the rake with all the women or whatever. I switch personalities. One, I'm deceiving them, but also two, it's not going to work out long term. It's hard to be consistent with something that's not your personality. And so that would be a problem. And so that book also, the book of seduction, talks about the different lures you can use. I call them lures because I got that from the pragmatic pragmatist guide to relationships. And I got that they call it lures, but it's basically tactics you and use to lure in victims and create attraction and everything. Some people say like seduction is authentic, not authentic. Oh, I see. That's my speech therapy or whatever. Not. I need to work on that. Not authentic. Authentic. Ah, authentic. Ah, I can't say it. I'll work on that. But you're not being honest when you do that, and it's hard to maintain a relationship when you're not honest. And I agree, but I think what you should choose is choose the one that's most like you out of these six, or it's like eight seduction types, and start to develop those parts of your personalities more. And also start to get rid of the personalities because personalities can be changed. Get rid of the ones that are anti-seductive. So it talks about anti-seductive traits, and that some of them you should get rid of. And I agree on a lot of them. And so you can do that. So you can kind of skew your personality to one of the eight types of seducers. However, you should pick one that's closely aligned with your personality. Like I'm probably never going to be a rake. I don't want to be. And so I don't want to try and put on a false persona on that. But I'm already have the instinctual parts of a coquette, so why not lean into that? And what so that's like a lot I've learned from that book. And I'm really interested in romantic relationships because I don't really have any experience with them, so it's kind of a new thing, but also it's just I'm really interested not just in romantic relationships, but also relationships with people because people are interesting. And so that's the book. I don't have the book with me, The Art of Seduction, because it's an ebook. I read it on the ebook that I paid for. I kind of want to get the book. So I really recommend that book, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Also the pragma, pragmatist pragmatists. I need to work on my speech. The Pragmatist Guide to Relationships. Pagmist. I think that's how you spell it. That's not the right spelling, I don't think, but you get the gist of it. That's probably the two best books for relationships I had. Now I have no experience, so those are just books I'm recommended that have helped me. But I've been using AI to do that because I've started to lean into that coquette style of my personality. So I've been asking AI because the problem with Robert Greene's books is there's not a lot of practicalities. A lot of them though he provides tips and everything, but a lot of his sources are from 100, 200 years old or even longer. And the problem with that is modern life is completely different. We have cell phones, the internet, dating is completely different, all that. You don't live in a village with 100 people or you're not, there are no kings, any of that. So his his books are really good for the psychology of it, but it's hard to put that into practical use. There are not a lot of strategies for it. It's the art of seducing. He makes it out as like an art, but I want some practicalities. And so I've been using ChatGPT for that. And it's really good. So I'm trying to lead into that. I'm trying to switch up my personality over time, of course. It's probably gonna take a year, 2 years. So we'll see that. So I've been doing that. I've been playing with the hot and cold play or whatever, and I'm gonna start testing it out in my co-working um space, like where I work, because then I can like use these techniques or whatever, and I won't face backlash, and it's a safe environment for me, and I'm about to quit in a month or two, so like not like physical uh techniques. I just mean like the mentally, your body language. So I'm experimenting with body language and like eye contact and everything to build up that persona of, coquette. And maybe I'll try a little bit of flirting with some of my coworkers who are more attractive, just to play around with it. I'm not serious about dating any of my coworkers, just to play around with flirting because I've never really done it for and my body language. So I'm doing that. I'm using ChatGPT uh 4.0 or 4.0 or whatever. So I'm doing that. Let's talk about my YouTube. I got another subscriber. No, I told you guys last time on Tuesday I got 10 subscribers. I'm at 10, but I got an email for my email link to YouTube that I had gotten another comment. And that comment was like on my latest videos, the slow in progress video on like amazing content or whatever. I tried to sign up for your Discord, but the Discord link wasn't working or whatever. It expired. And I had thought I put a permanent link to my Discord on YouTube. Maybe it's not. I'll have to check that. I'm not really good with Discord. Um, I've started Instagram or whatever. Discord, I now have Instagram and Snapchat, so I might not use Discord as much. Probably still use it for the people who want to use Discord, but not as much. I will, I'm trying to transition over to Snapchat and Instagram. Instagram, because Instagram's kind of like a social proof platform, and I want to use it for social proof. I have to make a video on that. I'll make a video with like my books, some of the books. So if you want to see my Instagram, in my Instagram, I had posted two pictures of selfies, naked shirt. I still have pants on or whatever, just naked shirt to show my progress of my upper body. So I'm probably gonna do one on my books, like reading a book. Like I might stand back here and read a book and then press a timer on my camera for like 5 seconds on my phone and kind of do it like, someone's an outside person is taking the picture. I don't know. We'll see, but I got really excited for that. Someone's responding, even in the comments, and they wanted to join my Discord. Thank you for the video if you're watching to the end, though, but also thank you for the comment. I don't have the lady's name or whatever because I saw it through the email. I'm changing. I'll go look up the Discord after this and kind of try and fix it or whatever, and I'll probably reply to that comment and thank them for watching and everything, and I'll try to see who it was. I didn't see the username or whatever. So that was like a quick thing I saw this morning I wanted to talk about. It's been almost an hour. It's hard to talk because like I bit my lip or bit the inside like a week or two ago and it's still not healed. It's hurting whenever I drink, eat, or even talk. So I gotta stop talking and I gotta get work done today. I'm probably gonna make a blog post today for my Tuesday video or Thursday video. I want to use the blogs to kind of prep out my ideas for the video. Prepare my idea. And I also had um, signed up for the Dan Co. 13 trainings or whatever that are free by Dan Co. on his email list and everything because he's a very good creator and I want to follow his idea of having a personal niche. You are the niche. So you don't run out of ideas. Like for example, I could have been a Minecrafter, who plays Minecraft, but eventually after years of doing it, I would have gotten bored. But my audience expects Minecraft, so they wouldn't be happy if I switched, or I wouldn't get as much views because of that. So you don't ever want to niche down, and I agree with that idea, especially, that's old business ideas. Now social media has been developed. This is, I think that's the best thing to do is have your own personal niche. And so I got this course I got to do through it. It'll probably take like 2 hours. I might get the $135 course if I find value from the 2 hour 13 writings practice. Because um, if I find value from the 2 hour one, then I'll probably buy the $150 one because that's a lot of money, but I think it's an investment in my channel. And I'm not worried about spending a lot of money for investing in myself and in this channel. I don't like spending money for personal stuff, except for maybe eating. But other than that, I don't like spending money on personal stuff. And so that's the end of the video. I gotta go. It's been an hour. Whew, I didn't think this video would be that long. I always say that the video is not gonna be long. It's not. Thank you for watching to the end. Have a good day. I always do the intro. I want to make up a specific intro, but I gotta go. So this is goodbye. Like I gotta do work to you. Good luck on the grind. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're improving in your life, growing in your life, in whatever ways, whatever you think is growing in your life. That's all you should be. And so I gotta go. Have a great day. Goodbye.